And in today's video, I'm going to react to how hunting a serial killer actually works. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. My name is your boy, Just Starkey. Let's get to the video. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's get to the video.
And I'm a former police detective. I now investigate some of the most notorious and dangerous killers in the UK.
Okay.
This is how crime works.
Sure, tell us.
People often misuse the term serial killer. So serial killer applies to an individual who has killed 3 or more people over a period of 30 days or more. Do serial killers have an aura around them? Yes, some do. Because you can't be a serial killer without having some air of respectability, some position and status in life. So yeah, they do have an aura. Do they intimidate me? No.
How do we even apply for serial killers? Where is the connection from? People are really crazy and weird. Like the fact that you can call yourself a serial killer, how you go and locate people. Oh my gosh. Oh my.
No one intimidates me.
Signs of.
I've got 3 serial killer cases that I have specifically investigated in real detail. And that is the Yorkshire Ripper, Peter Sutcliffe, Angus Sinclair. He's responsible for probably at least another 10 unsolved murders. And then Peter Tobin. I do believe Peter Tobin is responsible for a number of other murders, at least 2 others who I've been able to
serial killers are scary, bro.
So one of the first steps for any major investigation for a murder is profiling. You look in terms of
take notes.
You go to the crime scene and then you start to try and build up a picture of who the offender could be. I did a reinvestigation of Peter Sutcliffe whilst he was in jail, who murdered 13 women, attempted to murder 8 others, and probably more in the 1980s. But my investigation of him really got to the heart of what he was about. He was convicted, went to jail on the basis that he had schizophrenia. We try and give a name to everything, you know, a narcissistic, a psychopath, a schizophrenic, you know, all of these terms. I challenge that. I don't believe that he did have schizophrenia. I was able to show that he was a psychopath. He had all the signs of psychopathy. And if he was prosecuted today, he would have gone to a mainstream prison. He wouldn't have gone to a hospital because he wasn't schizophrenic. He was a psychopath. Ted Bundy, he has over-egged his involvement in a crime. Some of that is about probably wanting a greater status, about their own ego, about wanting to be, you know, the best of the best or the biggest of the serial killers.
How do we get to find them?
Actually believe it. I mean, very often serial killers believe what isn't true. They use cognitive distortion constantly because in order for them to commit that next murder, they have to justify it in their head that they're not going to get caught. Evidence is key for me.
Because they got balls.
Has to some degree some narcissism in them.
The fact that they can do this is very tough.
There are lots of people who live amongst us every day who have the signs that we've associated with serial killers: psychopathy, narcissism. That's part of some people's makeup every day, and it doesn't make them killers.
I think I love this.
So once you've identified a potential suspect or suspects, your then position is to try and find evidence in relation to them. And that will be collecting any of the forensic elements around, but also CCTV, external factors. The victim will give you their victimology.
I'm always around. I'm not going to be talking loud. I'm talking very to me. I'm sorry. Thank you guys for coming and watching. If you are fresh to the public video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Get money, get my own house, and be shouting and be reacting to videos. Thank you.
Will understand why they are a victim. You'll want to know what that person does on a day-to-day basis, who they interact with, where they go. We know very often serial killers will return to the scene of their crime at some stage. Peter Sutcliffe, the Yorkshire Ripper, he returned back to the murder scene of one of his victims. And the reason he did that is because he thought that potentially one of the items he gave to his victims, a £5 note, could lead to him being found. He was so lucky that the police bungled and were so incompetent with their investigation that that £5 note didn't lead to him. You only need that droplet of DNA. You need that droplet of sweat, that droplet of blood, which is enough to link the killer to the crime scene. We've lost too many cases by cross-contamination, by lack of continuity. So whilst DNA in one way can be absolutely nailing the offender, sometimes DNA actually doesn't make much difference. Even though it's their DNA, you've got to be able to show that that DNA there shouldn't be there. And the problem is, of course, with the large majority of murders are overwhelmingly committed by somebody known to the victim. So I set about to investigate if Angus Sinclair was responsible for other murders, to pull Angus Sinclair's life totally apart and rebuild it. Go right from the very beginning of his offending behaviour. We got to his wife. She talked me through his life. We then started to show this picture of an individual who, over 6 months, went on a killing spree. It's different to serial killers today. But when he was committing his crimes in the 1970s, he committed them all in the same way. Now, offenders have changed because they realise...
Man, yes, you were killers in the 19s. Imagine now. That's all upgraded. No cap. Must have upgraded. Must have reached a different level, like craziness. I'm sure not working thing. A serial killer. I'm a serial killer. Because I want to kill this person. I'll hire someone to. When I start to play with you, to realize I'll just come, pa. She's going crazy now. In the 2000, in the big 2026. Imagine what's happening right now.
That if I commit the murder the same way over and over, the police will link it together. But not in those days. There was this period of time before the CSI effect where killers killed the same way. And what we saw, certainly when we investigated Sinclair, all of his victims were killed at a weekend and with their item of their own clothing. We collected enough evidence. Unfortunately, he died and the Crown was not prepared to prosecute him, given the fact that he was already in jail. Tracking takes all kinds of different forms. Technology assists us massively. So you can put listening devices into houses, you can put probes into houses, you can do intercepts on phones, you can listen to phones. They have to have a certain amount of authority. But as an individual, I have to be careful. I have to be on the right side of the law. I have to make it proportionate. But there are things that I'll do. I'll send decoy packages to addresses. I can put trackers in parcels that go to people's houses. I could put a listening device into someone's house. We can use trackers. We can put...
How do you put trackers in people's houses without them catching you? The guys put into my house. My eyes are all about you. If anybody enters my house, my eyes are all about us. You ain't doing any freaky shit in my house. Hell no. No.
What we refer to in the industry as lumps. We've now got technology that enables us to lump a car that gets audio as well as showing us on a real-time device where that individual's going. I've used it. So social media plays a crucial role because by and large people use it, particularly the demographic of the individuals that we potentially look at in terms of potential suspects, where people live, the records that they keep, the memberships they have. People's whole footprint on social media is an integral part of any investigation now. Because of the CSI effect of offenders, they are now aware that if they travel to another area, put distance between them and where the crime occurred, the likelihood is that that police force won't talk to another police force, and therefore there won't be a joined up thinking in relation to
But why are you spilling all the beans, though? Why are you spilling all the beans? I rather do. I rather give you the serial killer's knowledge on what to do and how to do it properly. Now you're going to learn from me. See what they can do to escape it. Come on, man. Sometimes you have to be a little psychology. I know it's cool. You need to get attention, get views, get fame, get likes. Oh wow, that's smart, but like, think about it. You're not affecting the people who are going to catch serial killers. Okay.
Those crimes that have taken place. Viewers, listeners will be surprised to know that there is no national database that exists for unsolved murders. So we have a murder that happens in one part of the country, and there is no database where it will sit to be able to be compared on another part of the country. So serial killers will often taunt the police, and they'll get to a position where, of course, they feel confident. They've got away with a number of murders. There are other people out there who sometimes write in, pretending to be the killer, want to take that fame. And then that distracts the investigation entirely. The Zodiac killers, there are other cases. In the Yorkshire Ripper, we had an individual who became known as Wearside Jack, who wrote letters in claiming to be the killer. He wasn't. And therefore they went looking for completely the wrong person, enabling them to eliminate Peter Sutcliffe on some basis.
It's just really what I said. Or was in my ears? If you do, until you're 100% sure with proof and signs that that's the person, that's the person at fault, don't do anything to the person. Please don't do anything to the person. I'm making a note as a judge. Come to look. No one, hence this loop, hence no one can put consequences on hence no one can put consequences on another person until he or she has proven the person guilty with signs, proof, and witness. Thank you. Therefore, the apprehension.
Well, serial killers are arrested in the same way as any other killer is arrested. So you
Okay,
get to a position where you've got reasonable grounds to arrest them, and you go and arrest them. Arrests are carefully planned to create the least amount of disturbance and secure the most amount of evidence. The biggest problem for the arrest of a suspect is the fact that it isn't executed. And of course, the worst case scenario is that that individual disappears. You don't get him. You don't execute it. Or something happens to them. It is about answers. And this is when we have to understand the impact on families and loved ones, is that they want answers. And if you can't give that because the individual's no longer there, then I think that's failing. Serial killers very, very rarely may come and admit it. And again, serial killers, when arrested, perhaps for some...
Who in their right mind come and admit that they have killed someone? Very often. So you feel like no one in their right mind come to you that, oh, officers, I killed this person. Arrest me and put me in jail for the rest of my life. Hell no. Ain't nobody doing that.
Something unconnected to a serial killing or unconnected to it may well admit. And one of those classic examples was Peter Sutcliffe admitted finally when he was arrested because he was going to kill his latest victim and he had a false number plate.
That's right. Hey! Let's go! That's my track.
The think what I've seen is people be more excited about it from a professional standpoint, because a lot of times that's the hardest barrier, is like when you're professional, to take a thing that you think is a novelty or you've seen been a novelty and apply it, to your work. But when I started really getting addicted to it, I was going, oh man, whatever I need is really right here.
I do a lot of interviews with offenders, alleged offenders, whether it be through my television work or whether it be through undertaking risk assessments on dangerous offenders. You can always get someone to talk. How was last night? What do you think of this place? You then got to keep it going. And of course, you slowly take them to places where they're least comfortable, but then you bring them back to comfortable. There's also good cop and bad cop. It is about taking control. Get rid of barriers, take tables away. And I've seen too many interviews where
good cop, bad cop. I see all your cops as the same. To be a cop, you treat me like fuck. I don't give a fuck, nigga. Okay. I give 2 fucks, not 3 fucks, not 5 fucks. God damn it, talking low is very painful. It makes my truth hurt me, but I have to talk low, you feel me? Because right now my mom is around and I don't want her to know that I'm doing this, so you guys have to bear with me, okay?
the suspect takes control. Peter Tobin, who I've investigated, he would always talk in an interview, but he'd be angry. He'd tell you to go somewhere. He'd be violently aggressive in his tone. He wouldn't engage with you on the level where you could have a proper conversation. Whereas Angus Sinclair made no comment. There are times when I've watched Angus Sinclair's interviews and I think to myself, he's about to disclose, he's about to say something. And the police officers, I think, believe that too. The thing about Angus Sinclair is that when he was investigated for the murder of Catherine Rehill in 1961, his brother went into the interview room in the space between the police officers and said to Angus, "Did you kill her? If you did, you have to tell the police." And he did. This whole idea that body language is crucial and central to identifying someone. It's great in hindsight. It's brilliant. Once someone's gone to jail and you come away after and go, do you know what? When they scratched their head or when they lifted their eyebrow or when they scratched their nose, it was clearly lying. Rubbish. When I interviewed Stuart Hazel for the murder of Tia Sharp, I knew Stuart Hazel was lying because the evidence told me. He sat there and looked at me in the eye, telling me what he believed was true. But I knew it was an interview with a killer, and actually it led to his subsequent arrest, 38 years in jail. My interview was played in the opening of the Old Bailey trial, the Central Criminal Court. It was instrumental to the prosecution's case. So the biggest cause of false imprisonment in terms of getting the wrong person is senior investigating officers.
I remember the rule I gave. If you didn't hear the rule, go back and watch the rule and come back and continue. Hence, no one. Let's go and watch the other one. God damn it, Mark. Sorry, guys. Sorry, GG's. GG's.
Major investigations become fixated on hypotheses, become fixated on the suspect, and they do everything they can to get the evidence to secure them. And that's why we have miscarriages of justice. Probably the most notorious case that I've worked on where a killer was identified by the police and prosecuted for what they considered to be the murderer was Barry George in relation to Jill Dando. I can tell you, and I've spent an awful lot of time investigating that case, he didn't kill Jill Dando. Absolutely not. The police got it utterly wrong. They became fixated on Barry George as their suspect, and they found the evidence that they believed was enough to secure the conviction. And it was. It did get convicted. Of course, when it then got looked at carefully later in terms of the evidence, it was found to be completely and utterly wrong, which is why he got acquitted. No, the police
investigations were just taking people and killing and putting them in jail for no reason. If you ask me, that's not nice. That's not nice. That's not nice. No cap. No, that's bad. That's bad.
Went after the wrong man. They got the evidence they believed fitted, and it never fitted.
Come on, lady.
Not today.
Step through. I'll swipe from behind.
Sir, you don't have to.
Go. You're blocking the line.
I have a 9 a.m. quarterly review at Sterling Tower.
Go.
Can I...
Just don't be late.
Don't forget, with serial killers, the first time they get caught, they may well have been killing for 20, 30 years. And they may well only get caught for one or two of their victims, and the others are not known about. So Angus Sinclair was convicted of 3 murders and 1 manslaughter in 1961 with Catherine Rehill. But prior to that, he got prosecuted for 2 of those murders, but was never convicted. And the reason he wasn't convicted is his defense was that it was consensual. He finally got prosecuted when they got evidence to show to the contrary. When it came to the victims of the Yorkshire Ripper, these were sex workers. And the police, not until the 5th victim, acknowledged and felt that there was a real victim. So they passed off the first 5 victims. Serial killers may get prosecuted early on in their offending or early on in their court offending period of time and get away with it, but continue to offend thereafter. The minimum term for murder is life. But of course, there are sliding scales in relation to that. Our criminal justice system still needs a lot of work. I think in terms of life, the US conviction rate is worse than the UK. It may well be also due to their criminal justice system, the court process, the way that all of that is set up, and the way that the public give evidence. If you as a victim giving first-hand testimony feel that you are going to be hung out to dry, you're not.
You're spilling the beans. Why are you spilling the beans, man? Stop spilling the beans. That's constant.
Going to be listened to, you're not going to be believed, you're going to be vulnerable. Then will you give evidence? And of course that means massively that whilst you may be able to arrest somebody, you can't prosecute them, so your prosecution rate goes down. I believe there has to be, rightly so, a punitive effect, and that's first and foremost. Certainly for serial killers, it has to be a punitive effect, but there also has to be restorative. And that restorative doesn't mean the individuals get released into community. What it means is they understand why they've committed their offences. They understand the impact of the victims. But restorative justice within that criminal justice system for serial killers is absolutely crucial. But the criminal justice system isn't set up for that.
Yeah.
So my background is as a former police detective. I was school captain at school, and I
hate math.
was a very active individual, and I thought, what is it that I could do that would keep me outside and keep me active? So I'd applied to Surrey and Hampshire. And at the same time as I'd applied to those police forces, I'd also been offered a sports exchange to New Zealand to go and play rugby. And I was offered a job with the police. And I thought, I'll do that rather than go and play rugby. Now, I don't have any regrets in life apart from that. I wish I'd have put that on hold, joining the police service and gone and played rugby. My mental health over the last 2.5 years, I've been to rock bottom. I've now realized that actually it's probably what I've seen. It's what I've done. It's the world that I live in. I care about people. I care about the job that I do. And I think if I didn't do that, it would make me a very different person. But I acknowledge that the years that I've seen the worst of the worst, I've seen the worst possible impact of crime. I know how powerful the media is. I know that if I can put a program out there that can give answers to people, then that's helpful. And I do. And anybody that watches my programs will see that it's not about me. It's about getting the evidence, using my skills, and giving answers to people.
There'll be a man in the
best
chat.
known for my role as exposing Jimmy Savile. I made an hours-long program, and it resulted in his name, or the case, appearing on the front pages for 41 consecutive days. It resulted in numerous people being arrested and prosecuted, like Rolf Harris, Max Clifford, and other very high-profile individuals. I have a series on Netflix called The Investigator, and I was the man that interviewed Oscar Pistorius for the very first time.
You guys can't tell me that this man is not making bank. If you guys like the video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Peace out.